Hi, we are building a weather agent with Azure AI agents in Azure AI Foundry. Let's see what the final outputs looks like. Then we can build the project from scratch. As you can see, I have opened the final code in Visual Studio Code. This is a Python project and let's run the application. It's running. It have created the agent. The thread is created. Now it's giving the message it's a weather agent and it's here to provide the weather update. Let me ask a question. How is Texas? You know, Texas is a state and it's not a city. Let's see what it responds. It says Texas is large state and it have multiple regions and cities and all. So it's not able to get the weather information of a state. We need to give the cities. So let me ask something like list the cities and it should be providing me the information about multiple cities inside Texas. You know, I have just given list the cities, but it identified it is asking for, we are asking for cities in Texas and it gives the list. Now let me ask the info of first five cities so that we can get the weather information about the first five cities in this list. Now you can see it had returned with the weather in Houston, San Antonio, Dallas, Austin, and Fort Worth. Here they have given the weather information, temperature, humidity, and wind. This information is being captured from the Open API integration that we have done with the OpenWeatherMap. So this is what we are trying to build. We are trying to build an agent to talk to. It can respond to normal queries, something like which are the cities in Texas. And also we can use that information to get the information through an API integration over the third party. So here we are trying to integrate with OpenWeatherMap API. So let's deep dive into the code. So now I am at the OpenWeatherMap website. Here I am going through the documentation. This is the link. You can explore it yourself. Here you can see multiple APIs provided by OpenWeatherMap. You can use any other weather service provider or any other API according to your use case. In our current use case, we need the live weather data. So it's like there are multiple APIs key provided from OpenWeatherMap. We have forecasting related APIs, bulk upload APIs. There are multiple other APIs provided. In this demo, we are looking onto the current weather data API. So let me go to the API documentation. So it's pretty simple. We have to just call this endpoint with parameters latitude and longitude of the particular location and give the authentication. Authentication is done by either by passing it as a parameter like this, or you can get the information or get the authentication done using a header called app ID and give the API. We are going with the second approach of passing app ID as a header, not as a parameter like this. So this is what the API description tells. We can pass the latitude and longitude and do the authentication. And there are also additional parameters that we can give like mode, units, and language. If you're interested, you can explore those. So this is the API that we are currently using. Now for the integration of this API into Azure AI agents, we need to convert this to the template Open API version 3 JSON template. So let me try to take help from ChatGPT to convert this API into a Open API version 3 template. So let me copy it. Let me write a prompt for that. OpenAPI 3.0 JSON for the URL with parameters. Authentication with header, as I have already told. We are using header authentication, app ID and app API key with operation ID. So let me ask it. ChatGPT successfully have created the JSON, version 3 JSON. So that's it. Let me use this. Let me copy this and create a new file. I have just created a new project or folder in Visual Studio Code, and let me create the JSON file. Clicking on new file, it's a text file. I'm pasting it and let me save it. JSON. So let me save it. Now I need a Python file to run the program. So let me name it something like app.py. Now I just have the version 3 OpenWeatherMap API, OpenAPI template in a JSON file, and I have just a blank Python file. Now let me go to Azure AI Foundry and create a project and a hub. So for going to Azure AI Foundry, the URL is ai.azure.com. Just go to that, and there you can see the option to create project. Click on that. I'm just giving Gokul Joe's Hot and Cellos demo. Let me try to create. This is the project, and I can use an existing hub. Hub is the way we organize the resources that we are going to create for this project. We can use the existing resources. You can see I have existing resources, but for this demo, let me create a new hub. I'm just giving a name for it. And in hub names, we cannot have the hyphens. So it's a valid one. Google just Botangelos demo. I'm clicking on next. Now you can see the Azure resources that is getting created. It's hub, storage, key vault, AI services. And let me click on create. It takes some time to create the resource. So let me skip that part. Once the project and hub is getting created, it automatically redirects to this page. Here you can see the project information and hub informations. Here you can see the project connection string and related details. Now the next step is, once we create the hub and project, next step is to create the connection required. Here the connection is something like the authentication thing. Okay, here we are using Open API, and we need a connection where we have that authentication related thing, the API key from OpenWeatherMap. So let me go to Management Center to create a connection. Click on Management Center. Now click on New Connection. As we are using Open API as the, here you can see other options of creating connections. For our current use case, we need custom keys. So I'm clicking on this one and I'm giving the API key name. As per the documentation, the key should be having app ID. Let me go to the documentation again. Here you can see the header key should be app ID and value should be the API key. For getting API key, you can click on this one and it will divert to the API keys portal where you can click give a name, something like test 3, and click on generate to create a new API key. I'm using the dust 3 that I have just created. If you don't have an OpenWeatherMap API, sorry, OpenWeatherMap account, you will be asked to create one. Once you create, you can get this key for free. There will be limitations for the free plan, but for demo purpose, we can use this. So I'm copying this value and let me come back to the connection creation. Here I have given app ID and the value should be the key that is copied. Now I have to enable this checkbox e-secret and I should be giving a name. I'm just giving a name called Open Weather Map and click on add connection to create the connection. As I already have the same name of connection, I'm just giving app on weather map 1 and click on add connection. Now the connection is successfully created. You can see it here. Okay. Now we have created the connection. We have created the project. We have created the hub. Now we have to deploy a model. So let me click on this one. I am not using a fine-tuned model. I'm just deploying a base model. For this use case, I think we can go with GPT-4o. I'm just using this one and click on confirm. And it will be giving an option to select the deployment name and standard, sorry, deployment type and the restrictions if you need to keep it. All the locations you can modify it. Oh, then you can click on deploy. Now you can see we have created the project, hub, connection, and deployed the model. Now let me go back to the project, or I have declared three variables that's required for getting started. That one is OpenAPI JSON path, second is project connection string, third is connection ID. JSON path you can get by right clicking on this one and copy relative path, paste it here. Then project connection string, go back to the portal, click on go to project as you are currently on the management center, go to project, and now you can see project connection string here. Let me copy this one and paste it. Now we need the open API connection ID. It's a tricky one. How I get it is like I copy the value in this URL. Okay, connection ID. So this URL is having workspace ID here. So I'm just copying everything after WSID equal to and pasting it. So OpenAPI connection ID is workspace ID slash see connections slash the connection name that we have given. So it's like the workspace ID slash connection slash the connection name. So we have done with our prerequisites. So let me click on terminal and open the terminal. So let me try to create a new environment and activate it. This is the commands for doing that. Uh, After activating the virtual environment that we have created, I have run the installation command, the pip install command for installing JSON Ref module, Azure AI Projects module, Azure Identity module. JSON-ref module is used for loading the JSON file, the OpenAPI JSON file that we already have. This one, we need the function JSON. There are other ways to do it. I'm using this function. Azure AI Projects is the SDK or module which has the helper functions for creating agents or creating clients, creating sending messages to the agents and all. So all those functions are declared or defined under the Azure AI Projects SDK. For accessing Azure AI Foundry or Azure AI Projects through SDK, we need an authentication. So we need to authenticate to that project to use the Azure machine learning workspace. So for that, we need Azure identity. Here we are using default Azure credentials where we use Azure CLI login for authentication. There are other ways of doing it like client credentials where you use the token authentication and all. So now let me go to the next step. After installation using the pip, we need to import the required packages. So let me import the required packages here. Import JSON ref for JSON loading. Azure AI projects a client for creating client and sending and receiving messages to the agent and related agent related things. As I have told, we will be using default Azure credentials for identity management and authentication. We will be using Open Azure AI projects models for the things related with Open API, tools, and connections. So these are the required import statements. Now, let me first start with creation of a client. We create a project client with Azure AI project client, which is declared in Azure AI Foundry, and we are using the connection string where we pass the credential. We can either go with the default Azure credential or we can go with the client credentials or other ways of authenticating into the Azure AI workspace or machine learning workspace provided by Azure, where the code is actually getting executed. You can think about something, the space where the code or the agentic things getting executed. Now we are passing the connection string of the project also to identify the project. Now the next step is to load the Open API. So here it is. I am passing the path, the OpenAPI JSON path, and loading it into a variable called OpenAPI spec. Now the next step is to create a connection. We have already created the connection. We just need to declare the connection here. So here it is where we have a variable called auth, which is set to the connection. We have the connection which is already created. We are passing that OpenAPI connection ID here with its security scheme. Now we have to initialize the Open API tool where we describe what is the name of the API we need to refer to. We can give whatever name we like to. Then we load the OpenAPI spec here, which is already loaded into a variable in the previous step. Now we write a description about the API. This is where the OpenAPI is defined, or the OpenAI is given information about what the API is about. So here we have defined is we pass latitude and longitude to fetch the real-time weather information. This is what the API is all about. We describe what the API is in layman's language so that OpenAI identifies or understands what the API is all about. And we also pass the authentication. If you don't have the authentication, we don't want to pass it. If as the current API that we have used, the Open Weather Map API is having an authentication where it is in headers we want to pass API key and pass the value that is being stored in the connection in the Azure AI Foundry. That connection is already declared here with the connected here with the connection ID, and that authentication is being passed here. So we have created the OpenAPI tool for currently created OpenWeatherMap. I know it's confusing like OpenAPI, OpenAI, OpenWeatherMap all have the open in common, but those three are three different things. OpenAI is the ChatGPT product. OpenWeatherMap is a company which provides the weather information, and OpenAPI is a template where we specify APIs. We can specify any type of APIs here. Now we have done all the initialization steps required. Now we are trying to create an agent and use the agent. So for creating an agent, we can use the project client that we have just created. Project clients.agents.create agent. We can give the model information here. We have already deployed the model GPT-4o with the name GPT-4o, and now you have the my weather agent. I'm just giving a name for the agent, and I'm just giving an instruction. It looks similar to the way we create assistants. We're giving it a name, a model, and instruction and tools. The same way we are setting this up here also. We are giving the instructions. You are an agent that provides weather updates based on the location coordinates. And I am now passing the OpenAPI.definitions. This is the I have already created the OpenAPI tool. I am just passing that to this agent. Now, when we execute this line for creating agent, we will be able to create an agent. So let me try to print that so that we know it's successful. Let me save it and run it. Now we are successful in creating the agent, and you can see it here. Now, once we create the agent, we have to use it. For using the agent, similar to that of assistants, if you are already done, we have to create an thread and go through it. So let me try to create a thread here, and I'm printing the thread ID once it is created. I'm just printing a welcome message here for better user interactability. Now I am just writing a try except so that we can handle errors and go through an infinite loop. So I return while true to start an infinite loop, and now I have just taken the user input by prompting user, and if the user input is end, I'm just breaking this infinite loop. Else, if the user input is a not end, it will come to here and create a message in the thread. We have passed the thread ID and we are creating a message in the thread as role user and passing the user input that is being entered. Now I'm running the script. Previously in assistance, we have multiple other steps, but when it comes to agents, it's reduced to single step where we can just call project client.agents, create and run process run and pass the thread ID and assistant IDs. So that's it. This will take care of all the things like what are the parameters required, passing the parameters. We need to pass latitude and longitude for the API to respond, but actually we don't know the latitude and longitude. The user only knows the city names or something like that. So those are internally handled by OpenAI. OpenAI will be trying to get it from its own knowledge and pass the longitude and latitude to OpenAPI, so the OpenWeatherMap, and get the information. So here is like the single line for running the command and getting the information or the getting the task done. So I'm just having the failure scenario handling written. If run status is failed, I'm just printing and stopping the conversation. If it is not failed, I'm trying to retrieve the messages and the agent response will be printed out. That's what I have written here. If the run status is success, I'm just trying to list the messages and get the latest message and print it. So this is an infinite loop. It works infinitely till either user types end or a run is failed or some keyboard interrupts. So once this is done, as we have to delete the agents for clearing the steps, I'm writing a final step here also where project client is used to delete the agent that we have created. That's it. So let me save it. Let me run the script. This time, let's ask some other question. So welcome message is here. Sorry, I have typed it here. There is a little change that is being made on the latest API update, SDK update. Previously, we were passing assistant ID as the parameter, but here the name have changed to agent ID. So let I have updated that here and let me run it. Agent is created. Let me type a hi. Just responded. How is London? Let me ask a different question from that previous. It's it assumes the coordinate based upon the knowledge it already has and it responds with the temperature. Now I'm asking, what about the loss? It should be responding. Oh, let me ask the same similar question that we had before. Temperature at USA. USA is not a single city. Let me cities. It's having spelling mistakes that GPT should be able to identify and autocorrect the spellers. I have just given some command to give top 5 cities. So you can see it's giving the information regarding the weather at Atlanta, Houston, Chicago, Los Angeles, and New York. So that's it. That's how we are utilizing Open API integration to get the information. You can use the same or similar method to integrate to any API. It can be a post API, it can be a get API, it can be a delete API, whatever it is. You can convert that into a Open API version 3 JSON template, and then you can connect it here as a tool, Open API tool, and you should be using a connection if you're having an authentication there. And here, this is a just single agent. If you are having multiple agents, you can have it. You can have multiple APIs also getting integrated. Here I am just integrated one Open API. If you have multiple APIs, you can have it here. Because Open API tools is a list which we can add it to. This is, we have only declared one, we can have it as a list. So in this video, we try to create a weather agent. Well, it gives the information about the weather.